Tim Shieff, you guys may remember. Tim Shieff, several years ago, I made a video. I think I called it Tim Shieff Should Not Be Vegan or something. This was after he denounced veganism after having been vegan for I don't even know how long. He was kind of propped up as this proof that you can be an athlete and be vegan. He did Ninja Warrior. I think that's kind of how he got popular. And then he was no longer vegan because of, I think, some vague health claims. And I just made a video saying like, hey, let's not just prop up anyone and everyone who says they're vegan. If someone is not eating a balanced vegan diet and promoting unhealthy dietary measures and drinking their own pee.
There's nothing in that that's not ran around your body already, that you've already consumed consciously, you know.
Right.
It's from you, it's for you.
Let's do this, Timothy Shieff. Cheers, buddy. Okay.
Like I said, that was years ago, but now we have an apology for my denouncement of veganism. Now, I already know the reason, kind of, I think I know the reason for this. When I showed this to partner, I scrolled down just a little bit. Let me see if it's still there. Yeah, the next video right under that is something about divine truth and meeting Jesus. I was like, dang it, I knew it. I was just about to say, I bet this has something to do with religion or some sort of epiphany type thing, and that all of his problems were nothing to do with diet. Like I just sensed it, and I was right, but I can't prove it now. So
I wrote it in a letter form because it's easier for me to be concise, and then that way I don't just waffle on for 45 minutes.
Appreciated.
Many of you who have followed this channel for a while may know that I was vegan for some years from around 2012. Well, along with feeling like a hero for the planet, at the time and for a few years after, I noticed some great improvements in my health. But after a while, these tapered off, and I started to sense my health wasn't right, and I started to explore and experiment with a wide variety of things that my research suggested me to try. I was convinced a long water fast was all I needed to reset my system. But after that failed still to offer any lasting benefits, I felt ever more desperate. It was this desperation, however, that freed me from my own dogmatic vegan mindset. Things I took as signs of vitality appeared to improve. I strongly believed the vegan diet to be the cause of my declining health, and that not only me, but others were suffering too, but that they may have been trapped within the same blinkered vegan mindset that I had, and I wanted to help them break free from this dogma as I felt I had done.
You say blinkered? I love that word. What a great word. Can I use it? Am I allowed? That was one thing I talked about too in my Tim Shieff video. I think there are certain people who go vegan for primarily health reasons who have really high expectations for how they're supposed to feel 100% of the time. I'm not saying this is every single person who is no longer vegan for health reasons. You could see my cosmic skeptic for an example of that, as someone who I think really would struggle on a vegan diet, certain conditions. But for others, I think there are just these really high expectations. I mean, there are people who've said, yeah, you don't get a cold if you're vegan, right? You don't get a cold like I have, stuff like that. I'm not saying he believes something like that, but I think there are really high expectations that some people have. And so if they don't feel, I don't know, like 100% perfect, then something is wrong. And what's the obvious thing, right? Veganism. What's the big change that you've made in your life, or the thing that you do different from other people who you perceive as healthier? You don't eat animal products. So it makes sense that that's the thing people would change. And I think I also talked about with him specifically, he is an athlete, and I think it hits people like that harder, aging, right? Just getting older and not being able to do the things you could do just a few years prior.
I knew many within the vegan community looked up to me because of my athletic ability as a representation and a beacon of health within veganism. But when I didn't feel good, I felt it was only right that I was honest about that. Well, as you can imagine, the response was quite varied. I got attacked by many in the vegan community. People I considered friends turned on me. I also had many in the community still show me love and wish me well on my journey.
I'm glad he said that. That's nice. Typically, it's just, oh yeah, the response was vitriol all the way, everyone.
Well, the attack was obviously what I felt the loudest, and I felt very misunderstood. I believed my motives were to help my fellow humans, and that I had done the right thing by being honest and yet felt mostly attacked for that honesty. Something that felt eerily like my own relationship with my mum, but that is a topic for another time.
That is one thing I'll say. I never got any sort of dishonesty from him. He seems like a very honest person. I think he's just very easily swayed by dietary dogma. I mean, there's not many people who would drink their own pee. I know I keep bringing it up, but that I think shows his sort of mindset and how easily swayed he is by anecdotes and just claims of health, success, and people saying this is the thing that's going to cure every ill and make you feel amazing all the time.
I can see now that I chose to resist being humble and didn't really allow myself to just feel how misunderstood I felt. And I simply dug my heels in and continued to speak out against the diet.
And that is what happens, and I'm guilty of, I think, perpetuating that as well. I can be quite bitchy on here, and I don't think that necessarily helps. Sometimes with this sort of thing, with anti-vax, right? If we're just mean and if we treat people like idiots, they might just dig their heels in and listen even less to the other side.
Well, it was shortly after that my now friend, but stranger at the time, Bex, approached me. She talked to me about some of my relational issues with my mother that she could feel from me, and I couldn't deny that what she felt close to some truth and that it made sense. That was when she introduced me to the teachings of divine truth.
So someone involved in a cult saw an opportunity, is the way that sounds to me. Not saying that's true. Probably it's just someone trying to help, but I can't help but hear. But to me, pretty much every religious experience sounds culty, so.
It was the teachings of divine truth that offered me a perspective on my battles with diet and health that no one or nowhere else had given me up until that point, other than my friend Anna, who had emailed me at some point prior to Bex, and also trying to share some of the teachings of divine truth. But I'd overlooked the email at the time.
Oh man, he's getting it from all sides, right? I mean, he had no chance. He had no chance but to join.
The teachings gave me clarity as to my own confusion and to why there is so much confusion around diet in the world today.
So this is just really sad to me. He's falling into the same trap, right? Instead of acknowledging that maybe there are just things that can't be changed and we don't have the answers to everything, including nutrition, he keeps searching for that one answer and that divine truth now, right? That's the answer. And I was going to say something I don't understand, but that's not quite true. No, I didn't grow up with religion, and I didn't grow up with, this sort of we need to know the answer to everything mindset. And if we don't know the answer, well, it's God, it's God's design. But the reason I fell into raw foods was still that sort of thinking and objectivism as well. I liked the idea that there was just this set of rules and you follow those rules. Pragmatism be damned, context be damned. There is something very comforting in that. There is something very comforting in raw foods are the answer. Just eat a raw food diet. Everyone eat a fruit-based, low-fat raw food diet, right? There's something very comforting in the simplicity of that and the, ability to generalize in that way instead of saying, oh, no, nutrition's a lot more complex than that.
But what I had never considered was how my emotional state was affecting my body, my organs, and limiting its ability to digest food and absorb nutrients. In the same way, we all know stress affects the body's ability to function. Well, I have a lot of unhealed, unexpressed emotions from my childhood that I either didn't realize were still there or have tried to just let go of, but just letting go simply didn't work.
Absolutely, stress can affect our health and, maybe he needs therapy, I don't know, but certainly releasing emotions and childhood trauma causes everything, right? It's not science. It's not evidence-based. I think he is just really, really, really hoping for the one thing that's going to fix him.
By most people's standards, they would say that I had a fairly normal upbringing, a supportive family that provided everything I needed physically. But to all children who are sensitive, pure souls, it doesn't take much to create negative, fearful, and sad emotions. And when parents don't allow children to fully express themselves emotionally due to their own discomforts being confronted, they use methods to shut them down. These emotions then end up being stored as emotional injuries. It seems the only way to really deal with these and actually let go of them is to allow myself to experience and feel them.
This reminds me of that anger, well, it's not anger management, but that treatment for anger, right? Where you're supposed to just yell and scream and punch pillows and stuff. No, there's no emotional reservoir where we just store negative emotions and you just act out those emotions and then they're gone and then you're okay. That's just not how it works.
If you look at Eastern cultures, you see that emotions affecting organs is a much more commonly accepted scientific fact. In traditional Chinese medicine, you can see liver is affected by anger, kidneys by fear, lungs by grief.
Traditional Chinese medicine is full of garbage. It's full of absolute garbage, not evidence-based beliefs. Look up bile bears if you want a wonderful start to the day. If this is your morning, this is my morning. It is changing and improving. They have banned certain harmful practices, right? Really cruel, exploitative practices. Platypus, something to do with platypus, I believe, was one that has been banned. And even bile bears are not used nearly as much as they used to be. Just because other cultures do something doesn't mean it's correct. This is what science is for. And science is universal. It is not cultural.
There are also other good Western books on this by psychologists. Books like The Body Never Lies, The Body is the Barometer for the Soul, The Body Keeps the Score.
I'm familiar with The Body Keeps the Score. And to be fair, this sort of psychology and, the childhood trauma and these storings of emotion, this isn't just alternative stuff. There are psychologists, therapists who believe this sort of thing. I just saw a video, a headline popped up for me from a therapist talking about the cause of schizophrenia, I think, and psychotic episodes is childhood trauma. Come on. So the truth is pretty much everything he's saying. I don't know about the liver anger thing. A lot of this he could get from an actual therapist. He could go to a therapist and feel validated, right? This isn't just weird religious stuff. As Tim said, the authors of these books, like The Body Keeps the Score, that is from a psychiatrist, and yet that book is not very evidence-based. It promotes this idea that physical ailments are caused by trauma, that trauma actually changes the brain, even though the evidence for this is pretty lacking. For one thing, many of the studies have no data on the patient's brains prior to the adverse event or events prior to the trauma. The studies that do tend to show these differences were present before the trauma. In other words, it's probably more likely that there are genetic factors that dictate how we handle trauma. So for instance, a genetic predisposition to PTSD, which could explain why only some people going through the same traumatic experience like war end up with PTSD. There are experts who truly believe in repressed memories, even though there is no hard evidence suggesting that's a thing. But there are therapists who really promote this idea of repressed memories and try to help their clients unleash these memories they don't remember. Yeah, nothing could go wrong there. To be clear, I'm not anti-therapy whatsoever. I just made a video about eating disorders and therapy. Highly recommend checking that out. I am quite a fan of therapy. I'm also quite a fan of drugs. I am on Prozac and Wellbutrin for depression and anxiety, and they help me very, very, very much. I've been on them for years now, come off of them and regretted it every time and had to get back on them. But as with nutrition, right, there's a lot of pseudoscience, even from experts, even from actual dietitians and actual therapists.
I have learned that my suffering was and is twofold. 1, unexpressed emotions from childhood stored in my soul and manifesting in my body. 2, my choice to use addictions to continuously avoid feeling them, e.g., like using women to make me feel loved for the lack of love I felt from my mother, using food to suppress my uncomfortable emotions, using success in sporting endeavors to gain male approval for the lack of real love I felt from my dad.
That's all personal stuff, and I don't, I'm not a therapist. But yeah, those aren't really addictions. I thought he was going to talk about drug addictions and, liking women. Maybe you just like being around women. We're pretty awesome. We got boobs. In all seriousness, there can be a compulsion aspect to sex, right? Certainly someone who feels out of control, isn't being safe, that's going to be a problem, whether it's technically an addiction or not. But the religious nature of his revelation, makes me think it's just repressive religious shit, right? Like making men and women feel bad for wanting to feel good, for wanting to feel pleasure.
I'm also coming to see that there are 2 types of healing: temporary, superficial healing, where you simply stop what ails you or is highlighting the issues to you. This is what most of the mainstream health industry and even the alternative health industry is still so focused on. The other type of healing is emotional healing. This is the only one that seems to create lasting change. Healing at a root level, healing in the soul, and this can be aided by God.
Yeah, I can't help but feel so sad. And, I don't know, the childhood stuff, we're so resilient. Kids are so resilient. There are kids who go through really terrible trauma and they come out the other side. I don't know, maybe it's a mindset, but, I've gone through things that most people, one thing in particular that most of you watching, I'm sure, have not, and it was not super pleasant. I'm just going to leave that there, I guess. We're resilient. We can go through a lot and come out the other side, and we don't have to be totally broken.
I am still quite new to looking at things from an emotional perspective. I don't think I've made much progress with it yet, but I can't deny how much clearer a picture it paints on my own struggles. And it puts the responsibility onto me, which is both empowering and daunting. But overall, it seems fair.
We all want to be in control of the bad things that happen in our life and in, fixing our health, right? It's why so many people with cancer turn to diet and exercise and whatnot. We want to believe that we are in control of it and even that we caused it, right, by not eating healthfully. That's not to say we aren't in control. I think largely we are, and including in our emotional state and our ability to move past things. I think we do have a lot of control there. Hopefully it's a positive thing for him. Hopefully he doesn't put too much pressure on himself to feel better about himself and his place in the world. Truly, I wish him all the best. I hope he does well. I hope he feels better. I really don't know anything about this divine truth. I know I keep saying cult. I don't know what it is. Partner did say there's some vegan Jesus or something. Maybe that's what this is. And maybe that's why he's specifically apologizing for denouncing veganism. I don't know. I'll have to look into divine truth, I guess. So I did look into divine truth, and yes, it is vegan Jesus. This guy, Alan John Miller, he believes he is Jesus. He and his girlfriend, I think, Mary, and yes, she thinks she's that Mary. Both of them eat a vegan diet, a raw vegan diet, according to this. I think this is from 2015, so maybe not raw anymore, but he says in this that most people struggle with being vegan because of what Tim Shieff was talking about, right? Because of emotions that affect us physically, namely our ability to digest food.
I've talked to people about, love would sooner or later mean that you'd give up meat in your life, because you love the animals and you don't want to see them harmed. Sooner or later, we would give up our desire for meat. But if the person who hears those words then goes, I have to give up meat, and I really like meat, if they don't address that issue, and they just give up meat because they've been told to, then their body will demand it still, and this is how many of them become emancipated. They lose all this weight and everything because the body, their soul, is still desiring the meat that they've given up. Yeah. If your body has stopped desiring it, and you've truly given it up in your soul, then you won't lose weight. You won't. When I say you won't lose weight, you won't go so thin that you go to the doctor and the doctor says, "Oh, it's because you're lacking protein." That won't never happen to you if you have given up the desire for it in your soul.
Miller is infamous for his filmed seminars, which often involve counseling sessions and healing, where his followers' issues are often blamed on their parents.
I have a lot of unhealed, unexpressed emotions from my childhood.
I hope he doesn't just fall into another trap, right? This is the answer, and then it's not the answer because there is no the answer, and maybe there's no real problem in the first place. But I do appreciate him taking the time to apologize to the movement, I guess, even if his kind of reasons for doing so are a little wonky, a little misguided in terms of, divine truth. As much as I think we want every health aspect to be in our control, it's really nice and freeing to know the truth, capital T, that's just not the truth and it's just not possible. And we can do what we can. And obviously eating healthy is very important, and exercising and managing stress and getting enough sleep. But beyond that, you still might get cancer. You still might have a heart attack. You still might just get hit by a car and die. And I think there is some freedom in accepting that. I don't like it. I mean, I want cancer to be cured, right? I don't want Hank Green to have cancer. I'm sure everyone's already saying it, but his videos on it are wonderful. I think he's doing such a good job of just normalizing it while providing really important information in a really nice way, the way he always does with science-y stuff. He's one of the best science communicators, I think. And I hate aging. I want to live forever, you know, and I hope one day that we can put a stop to aging. People think I'm like joking, but I'm really not. I'm pretty confident that our descendants are at least going to be able to extend our lifespans greatly. Not mine, of course. For now, like we're gonna die. Everyone watching this video is gonna die and is probably not gonna live to 100. And that sucks, but knowing it and accepting it. I mean, what's the religious thing? I actually do like that phrase. Accept the things you cannot change and do something with the things you can. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this. I would love to know your thoughts on this whole thing and Tim Shieff and any other stuff you know about divine truth. I'm sure I'll look into it and put it in this video. You would have seen it if I did. But yeah, I would love to know your thoughts on all of this. And I hope you're all doing well, having a nice June. Sorry, I've been kind of absent for a while, sick and all of that, but should be back to things now, feeling much better. Like the video, please, if you did, and subscribe, of course, really helps out the channel. And of course, you'll be notified, maybe, possibly. You might not, but you might be notified when I upload new videos. You'll definitely be notified if you click the bell and you have your notifications on. Thank you so much, of course, to my patrons at patreon.com/unnaturalvegan. I do post, almost said 5 exclusive videos a month. Whew. That would be rough. Two exclusive videos there a month for $5 plus patrons. I am about to post the second one for June, which is the controversial one for this month. And yeah, I should have that up in a few days. I have shirts and totes and a sweet mug. Oh, I thought I was wearing one of my shirts for a second. I'm not. I'm wearing my baby man shirt. I have an Amazon store page as well. So whenever you buy there using my links, I get like, you know, $1 or something, a little bit of commission from that. And yeah, that's it for me. Thanks, guys. New video soon. Yes, I am still sick, kind of. I'm pretty much over it. It's just my voice is the last thing to get better. And man, this was the worst cold I have had in a very long time. We got sick like 2 months ago, right? Kids. That was a really easy one. I didn't really have any congestion or anything. My throat hurt for a couple days and then I was pretty much better. But this one, no, really bad. Really crappy. And just some fun. I don't know if you can see. Oh, you can probably see all the red there. There's more. We went to the beach yesterday. And when we got there, a partner was like, here, let me put some sunscreen on. I already had my moisturizing sunscreen stuff on my face and everything. I did that before we left. But yeah, he was like, let me do your back and everything. And I was like, no, not right now. Because I didn't want, you know, I don't know, the sunscreen, the feel of it, it's so greasy. I was like, I'll do it in like a little bit, you know, so I don't have to be so greasy the entire time. Can you guess what I forgot to do? My face and everything is fine. It's just my shoulders and my back. Oh, I have not had a sunburn in a good decade. And yeah, sucks.